through this.
Easy for listening. I was able to do it.
Easy for dancing. I'm not a great lover of cats. That's my fear.
You're a disgrace, you are.
Not me. That's my fear.
You're a disgrace, you are.
Hi and welcome to Shadowboxing. My name is Tibor and my guest today is the Honourable Mark McGowan, the Leader of the Opposition. Hi Mark.
Hi, how are you going?
Not too bad. Mark, can you tell us something about your background? How do you become a politician?
Well, I lived in Rockingham in the early 1990s. I joined the Australian Labor Party actually in the mid-1980s. And
Why Labour?
why Labor? Always been a supporter of trying to help the underdog, making sure that the success of society is spread as widely as possible and as many people are successful as we can make them. And so lifting the aspirations, making sure that all people are treated equally and fairly is part of what I want to achieve. So I joined the Labor Party in 1984. I lived in Rockingham in the early 1990s, got elected to the Rockingham City Council and was fortunate enough to be pre-selected for the state seat of Rockingham, was elected in 1996.
So you had a long time sitting in the Parliament.
16 years.
16 years. If you're looking back in the 16 years, what do you think, what was your biggest fight?
My biggest fight, when I was a minister, I had to fight on a range of policies I wanted to achieve, and to get policies through the Parliament when you don't control the numbers in the upper house is difficult. So I had to get through some changes to Western Australia's liquor laws to free up our liquor laws, liberalise our liquor laws, create small bars and the like. That was a big fight.
Some say you are the most hard-working politician in this state. Is that true?
I don't know. I do my best. Certainly.
So tell us.
Well, I know that a lot of politicians work very hard. I know the Premier's job is very hard. I see him at lots of different events, at lots of different things out there in the community, so I know he works very hard. But I've never been one who shirks work, and I quite like my job, so it's not that difficult to do.
So you're enjoying it?
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, it's good.
So when you're not working, what you do? You got a family?
I have 3 children, and so when I'm not at work, almost invariably I'm spending time with them. Because it's hard to make the time with your children because of the fact that
Yes, it is.
because you have so many other responsibilities. So if I'm not here, almost invariably I'm with them doing something, and I try to make time once or twice a week to go to the gym and do a little bit of exercise. So that's basically it.
That's good. So tell us, how do you spend one working day?
Well,
How do you go
yesterday was a parliamentary sitting day. I would have gotten up at 6 o'clock. I was on the road at 6:30, 6:40. I got home last night at 10 o'clock. So that's your average day when Parliament's sitting, if you're in my role. And that means that it's a long day full of all sorts of stresses and strains. In the middle of that, you've got to participate in a few debates, question time, a few meetings and so forth. So that's basically what I do.
People think politicians never work. They think, they're sitting in Parliament, they're doing nothing, so why are we paying them?
It's not like that. It can be quite demanding. Some days can be quite exhausting. Other days not so difficult. But that when you're the leader, you can't sit around. Some people might have easy days occasionally, but when you're the leader or the Premier or someone senior, it's very difficult to have an easy day.
Are you looking for the election?
The election is what we aim for. So it's what you're in this to do. Get to the election, try and win. I'm very keen to win, and I've always wanted to win, but I also want to achieve things, and you can't achieve things really from opposition. So if you want to be an achiever, which most people in parliamentary life want to be, you've got to actually be in office to do that.
I would like to ask you about the current economy. The economy is growing. How the infrastructure is keeping up with that growth, and what's the future, what we need?
Well, Western Australia is successful. It will be successful into the future, no matter who's in government. But there's different emphasis you can put on different things. I'd like to put an emphasis on other industries apart from mining. Whilst mining is very important, I want to make sure mining continues to be successful, but I want to also see other industries be successful.
Such as?
Tourism, science, hospitality, retail and the like.
How about
manufacturing, all of those. I want them to be successful as well as mining, and I think having a broader economy is a sensible thing to do. So, in terms of infrastructure,
Yes.
This state spends more on infrastructure per capita than any other state. That's been the historic experience. You have to actually make sure you spend it wisely. At the moment, there's no plan. I've launched a policy to create a state infrastructure strategy, which is actually a plan for how you spend your infrastructure dollars. We spend on average $6 billion or so per year on infrastructure. $6 billion is an incredible amount of money, and you actually have to decide how to spend that money according to a plan rather than the whims of whoever's in government or whichever politicians can secure the money for their portfolio.
It's good to hear someone got a plan or will have a plan for the election, and if they're winning the election and get into government, we'll hopefully keep the plan alive. Transport is a big issue, especially with the riverfront development.
The biggest issue in transport is congestion. I lived in Western Australia 20 years ago. The congestion on the roads was nothing like it is now. These days it's incredible how congested our roads are, how slow things are, how many people are trying to use our roads. The simple solution is this. You have people have public transport which they'll use so that they're not all on the roads, and the more you expand your public transport and the more usage you have of your existing public transport, the better. So we've launched a few policies in relation to that. We have a great record there. Labor built the entire metropolitan rail network at various points of time, purchased all the trains, those sorts of things. It was a terrific record, so we have credibility when it comes to transport.
You got a shadow cabinet with 17 ministers, shadow ministers, 6 of them women. How do you see the women's position in the state in politics?
Historically, in Western Australia, indeed in Australia, there were very few women in politics. These days it's far more than there used to be. There's still room for improvement there, but certainly in my team we have a lot of senior women doing important roles, and that's a good thing. So we have 6 or so shadow ministers who are women. That's far more than the government has. They have very few women in their cabinet. The women in my team are leaders in the party. The leader in the upper house, the deputy leader in the upper house are women. So we are we promote women on the Labor side.
How do you see the talent in the Labor Party?
There's some very capable people on my side. I'm very happy with the contribution of my colleagues. I don't want to single people out as to who performs better than others, because then naturally others will wonder why they weren't singled out, and when you've got a big team that does well, it's hard to single individuals out. But I do have a very talented team with a broad range of experiences. On my side, I've had people who've been in business, people who've worked in government, in education, military officers that have served the country in wartime.
How do you see the current spending or overspending of the Liberal government? Colin Barnett is inherited $3.5 billion in that when they get into elected, and everyone knows that Labour Party used to spend the money before they losing elections. Now, Liberals spend more money than Labour ever, so increase the debt into almost $20 billion. What's your plan?
I have 2 very good shadow ministers who form part of and would form part of the expenditure review committee if we were successful in being elected. But you're correct. When Labor left office, Eric Ripper as Treasurer, debt in Western Australia, owned by the state government in effect, was $3.6 billion. It's now $14.5 billion. At the end of this financial year, it will be $18.5 billion. So that is a 500% increase in the amount of debt owed by the public or owed by the taxpayers of Western Australia in the course of 4 years. That's a huge increase in debt in anyone's book. And that has to be paid back.
Yeah, that's the question. So how do you prepare yourself? Probably better to lose the election than to face with $20 billion to pay back. So what's the plan?
Over time, debt will be paid back. But
where the money is coming from? If the mining, boom will stagnate or not going further up, what will happen? We're not going to have more revenue. How do we pay the debt?
Well, the first question is here. I didn't create the debt. Mr. Barnett did. Mr. Barnett is very profligate with public money. So that is the significant issue here. They are not to be trusted with the books and the finances. So If we're successful in being elected, over time we'd pay back that debt. You can't do it immediately, you can't do it overnight, it's impossible. So all we know is that our record in the last 10 years was very good in paying back debt, very good in keeping debt under control. The current government's record is poor.
I hope you can handle the situation if you're gonna be the West Australian Premier in the next election, after the next election. And I wish good luck for that, to pay back the debts. And we have to go for a short break, but stay with us. We're coming back after the break with more on shadowboxing.